Hey everyone, before I get into the next point of view, I'd like to say that instead of having everybody have to go to a different playlist and a different channel to get the first 3 videos that I have, including the introduction to that series of videos, I decided to re-upload those videos and put it onto the same playlist that I have now with the new channel of From a Certain Point of View Part 2. So you can get all the videos on just one playlist. I did, though, when I re-uploaded them, I changed the titles just a little bit so that way they're not exactly the same as the ones on the other channel. I couldn't figure out how to switch the order on the playlist, so the viewpoint number 3 is the first video on that playlist, and then it goes to the introduction on. For viewpoint number 4, it's Stories in the Sand by Griffin McElroy, through the eyes of a Jawa named Jat. And this particular Jawa is smaller than all the rest of the Jawas, so he gets bullied all the time by the other Jawas that he works with. And the beginning of the chapter actually describes the vehicle that they drive on the sand that they call the sand crawler. Jat, because he's so small, he was able to find this little gap inside the machine that's hidden from everybody else, all the other Jawas, and inside this gap he holds all of his valuables that he's taken from the different scavenging of his own self. He has this item that he calls the storyteller, because he takes different memory cores and plays them in the storyteller. And this Jawa, Jat, he so desperately wants to get out of Tatooine. There's even a good description in the chapter about Tatooine, and he just wants to get out of there. He wants to be out in the stars and experiencing different planets. And it actually, in this chapter, gives different stories or different experiences that he's had on Tatooine through the sand crawler and working with the other Jawas. But the very last story in the chapter has to do with when they find R2-D2. When Jat puts R2's memory core in the storyteller, he gets all the different stories with the Jedi. Of course, the last one being Princess Leia's message to Obi-Wan. As a Jawa, he can't understand any of the things that are being said, because he only understands the Jawa's language. But he could tell just through the expression of Princess Leia how the desperation and the importance of the message that she's trying to get out. So normally, after Jat looks at the memory core through the storyteller, normally he'll erase that and then put it back into whichever droid they're trying to sell with an erased memory. But because of the importance that Jat saw in the memory core of R2-D2, he didn't erase it at all. In a hurried pace, he runs to go put back the memory core in R2, and that made him feel important, but the R2 would receive the message and go from there. In the passage that I'm going to read from in this chapter has to do with R2's memory core from the eyes of Jat when it comes to the Jedis and the Force. You watch the R2 unit race through an enormous droid factory, a cavernous building, all metal and molten lava, a monolith that put his sandcrawler to shame. He watched the R2 unit bear witness to some sort of ceremony. A man in black, a woman in a lovely veil, solemn kiss exchanged over a lake at sunset. He saw armies of droids as far as the eye could see. He saw swords made of fire. He saw robed people who could actually use magic. The magic people were fighting each other using the fire swords. A pair of them laid low an entire platoon of droids using their magic. So, I thought that was an interesting point of view from John, what R2 saw through his eyes, what that seemed like to a Jawa that's never left Tatooine. Until next time.